So Nate, as you think back on the course, you'll remember it's a 3-day class or 2.5-day class. So tell us a little bit about what happens on day one. I mean, day one is kind of different than the rest of the days.
Right. So from what I remember, Mark, basically day one is more like your book learning, right? You're going to go in and just kind of get the references, start getting the lingo down, just kind of the basics of prep work essentially, so that when it comes time that you get out on the course, right, you're just familiar with some of the commands and the controls and that kind of stuff. And if I remember correctly, Wilkins, really kind of invites you in and just makes you comfortable with and just gets everything, because it's not just like you go out and you learn the bike, right? It's really an integration into the riding experience. And Eric and the other instructors are all really good at that, and it's a tie-in with everything that we do here at Wilkins. So it's pretty awesome.
So it starts out with some real fundamental information. Of course, we use the MSF Motorcycle Safety Foundation curriculum.
Yep.
So you use that book in the classroom, actually.
Correct.
Prior to the classroom, you take a little online e-course too.
That's
which
right.
is
I'd
pretty
forgotten
cool.
that. Yep.
Which is basically a primer that warms you up a little bit, and then you get to the classroom and you sit down with 5 other students, because there are only 6 students in our class, correct? And one of our great coaches walks you through that basic information.
Yep.
And gets you ready. That's basically a preparation for getting on the motorcycle.
Right.
And it's also a preparation for the written exam.
Correct.
Which is part of earning your endorsement. How
Right.
did you do on the written exam, buddy?
I don't even remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
Did you sweat it?
No, I've never sweat technical paperwork knowledge. So, so you're asking about day 1, but day 2, day 3, that's where my sweat began, of course, right?
So the academic portion was no problem for you?
I've never worried about academic stuff when it comes to testing.
You probably got 100 on the test.
I don't even know.
But it was a super easy test too, because it was, well, first of all, it's multiple choice, right?
Right.
It's basically all the time you need.
Right.
And you can make a couple mistakes. You don't need 100%.
Nope.
So it's actually a breeze. Do you know, I don't think we've ever had anybody fail the written test here.
Never?
Never.
It doesn't surprise me, honestly.
No. Pretty cool.
It is. It's a straightforward thing. And like you're saying, with multiple choice and that kind of stuff, there's always, in my opinion, there's always, one answer that sticks out. Right. And if you're ever oh, maybe there's 2, well, just skip that question for a minute if you can. Go to the other ones. Yeah. And then typically you'll figure out something that goes, oh yeah, that's right. That's that one. It's super easy.
So we send you home after day 1, and we tell you to make sure you go home and get a good night's sleep. No bars, no parties, no discos, right?
Right.
Because on day 2, you're on the bike all day long.
Correct.
As many as 6 to 7 hours on the motorcycle, right?
Correct. Yep.
That's got to be pretty physically challenging, isn't it, Nate?
It is, and it's also not. I don't want to overwhelm anybody, right? So the way the course is set up, you're getting on the bike, and you may even think it sounds foolish, right? But you literally start walking the bike, right? And then you walk the bike back, and then you walk the bike forward again, then you walk the bike back, right? And it's just okay, so this is how a bike moves forward and back, right? So it sounds so fundamental, so basic as to almost be laughable. But for somebody who's never been on the course before, never been on a bike, unless they've maybe ridden or done bicycles, right? You need to start somewhere, and everything just starts to build, right? So you move past that pretty quickly, right? But the pretty quickly is still step 2, and then step 3, and then step 4, and it all ends up making sense when you're done.
Well, it's really true, because you have to have a foundation before you can build a house, and we believe that starting with good habits from the beginning is really critical. Yep. In fact, we have some riders who come here who are actually already riders. Right. They ride motorcycles. They have maybe even had their permit, or have maybe riding without one for a while. They come in sometimes, and we find that they're well, we don't need to do this basic stuff. And what we find is that they have bad habits, right? Which ultimately makes them poor riders.
In the long run, yeah.
And so making sure those fundamentals are in place is really why we start there.
Yep.
So let's see, you're out there on day 1. You're going to go through, I think you're going to go through 7 or 8 exercises on day 1, because there's 15 total exercises for the class, right?
Yep.
how quickly do you start to do things like pop a wheelie and burn rubber and shit?
Well, I told you that we start off with the foundational things, and then the wheelies was actually step number 2.
Oh.
And then by the time that you get to step 4, you're actually already doing, some daredevil things. What's the guy's name I'm thinking of?
Evil.
Yeah, Evel Knievel, right? By the time you're on step 4, it's totally Evel Knievel. And so really the whole idea of the course is, of course, that by the time you're done with that, going out and riding on the road is nothing.
See?
Oh, wait, no, that's not how that goes. Yep.
So you, I think your coach was Eric Britton, is that
I had
correct?
Eric, yep.
So now we have probably 5 or 6 different coaches on staff right now, Eric Britton being our head coach.
Right.
So you had the benefit of one of our most experienced riders on the course. Tell us a little bit about Eric.
So Eric is, in my opinion, a very straightforward, kind of guy, but not blunt and hard to deal with, right? So personable, easy to deal with, but he's straightforward. When you make a mistake, he's gonna tell you because that's what he's there to do, right? Like, to educate you. So if he lets something slip, he's basically not doing his job, right? So he likes to talk about a percussive reset, which I might have gotten 1 or 2 of, right? But basically, it's if you get stuck in your own head, right? Because you're nervous and whatever else is going on, you might keep making the same mistake and not even really realizing you're doing it. So with your helmet on, if he comes up and just kind of gives you a quick little tap on the head, it makes you just kind of wake up, right? You just kind of go, well, oh, that's right. He said this and I missed it, right? Or my muscles didn't, react the way I thought they were. And it helps you actually kind of bring right back to. So have you ever watched the show? Of course, I'm not going to remember what it is. Anyway, Gib Slap. Do you know?
No.
Yeah. God, I wish I could remember. Anyway, there's a character in a TV show that I'm sure most anybody watching this video will know what I'm speaking of, and he liked to do a Gib slap. And it's basically whenever somebody's being foolish, a little wake up, right? Nothing harmful.
Well, got to keep people aware out there.
Got to keep people aware and keep them safe. And Eric's really good at that.
So, did you find any of the first day exercises to be particularly challenging? Do you remember them specifically?
So I don't remember any specific ones from like day 1 / to day 2, but I did just watch the video again that we created, those 4 years ago, whatever it was. And essentially what I said in the video was that by the end of day 1, there was one activity that was giving me some troubles. So I went home that night, right? So it's day 2. I go home that night and there's some stress, right? Because I knew I wasn't getting it quite right. And the funny thing about it is that the very next morning, we of course, get a little refresher. Let's start where we were. And it was like, oh crap, I've got to do this again. So I was like instantly stressed out, but just kept trusting the system, just keep trusting it, just keep trying, and basically was able to move through. So by the end of day 1, the 2 things that I remember from the whole course being difficult for me was from a dead stop, making a basically 90-degree right, and staying within the confines of a certain space. It's training for basically coming from an intersection so that you stay in the right-hand lane, right? That's kind of the basic premise of it. And that one was difficult for me because you've got the fork basically just about locked all the way to the right, and you're trying to operate the throttle, and you're trying to operate the clutch, and there's just a bunch of motion. So it's a fairly complex thing that you are doing by the end of day 1, but you have built up all these other skills. So now you're not really worrying about the balance quite so much. You're not worrying about XYZ, but it's like just trying to get those fine things, trying to get all 3 pieces to work at once.
Yeah.
So that was a big one.
Yeah.
But got through it.
Did you drop the bike at all on day 1?
Nope.
No, you didn't drop the bike, but any of your classmates do?
Yes, we had one guy that he dropped the bike 2, maybe 3, 4 times. And obviously a little nerves to go along with that, but ultimately out of the entire course, 5 of us did make it through actually 4, because one guy did drop out early. The one guy dropped out early. He'd never even ridden a bicycle. And so he came into the course not having ridden a bicycle, trying to learn all these skills, and that was difficult for him, and he knew it, and so he decided to pull out early. So by the end of the class, we had 4 of us out of the 6 that made it through.
That's awesome.
Yep.
The dropping the bike is no big deal in our class. The bikes are built to bounce, literally,
Correct.
aren't they?
Yep.
They have they're outfitted with special guards all the way around them that most importantly protect the rider if the bike is dropped. But you can't really hurt these bikes at all. They've been through the tumble before, and all you do is pick them up and get going right away. We laugh it off, and we make sure nobody gets hurt. It's completely safe. You know, the thing about the course that a lot of people are nervous about is that they're going to be driving fast. We don't go very fast in the class, do we?
I can't imagine we probably ever went over like 20, 25.
That's right.
And that's after you've already built a number of skills.
Yeah, maybe first or second gear is about as far as we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Second gear, you never get out of.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yep.
So we finished the day on day 1. We send you home. You're a little whipped. You spent a lot of time out there, especially if it's a warm day. Get another good night's sleep. You come on back on the 3rd day, and we have another 8 exercises to round it all out.
Yep.
And on that first day back, we, as you said, we review some of the
just a kind of a refresher, right? Bring you back to not square one, right? But to where you left off.
Right.
Yep.
And now we start doing some really pretty progressive riding out there.
Yep.
And it's amazing to me always that even people who have never even sat on a motorcycle before, by the time they get sleep on after day 1 and they come back on day 2, something happens where the information gets integrated and they have a whole lot more confidence on the motorcycle. I always love seeing day 2 on the range because people are just a lot more accomplished out there and they gain that skill set quick.
Yep. And I think part of it is the fact that you do have such a small group, right? So one, the instructor can really spend time with each of you, right? That's a big thing. But also each of you can spend time with each other, right? So Mark, if you and I are in the class together and you're experiencing one thing, you and I are, sounding boards for each other.
Yeah.
And then basically you say something and I go, oh, yes, that clicked,
yeah.
right? It's not a big group, so you're not feeling a bunch of nerves. You're not trying to interact with a ton of people. It's just 1 or 2 people, right? At any one real time where you're just kind of chit-chatting like you and I are doing right now, and that helps.
Yeah, it's really true. The students do interact quite a bit with one another, and I think what's really great about our class is that not only do you learn to ride a motorcycle, but you build relationships in this class. You become part of a kind of a community.
Part of the culture.
They're part of the culture, which foreshadows the culture to come.
Correct.
That little class is of 6 people, 6 riders. Once you've graduated that, you become part of a much bigger community, which is all of the riders here in New England and in Vermont. And tell me, has that been true for you?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. And obviously you guys can see that here I went through the riding academy 4 years ago, and now I come down here, I work at Wilkins part-time. So that's been awesome. And in fact, I'm going to kind of use that, Mark, as a leaping off point, right? So anybody out there that's thinking about riding or has maybe had a minimum of experience, I can talk about even after riding academy, being able to try out different things, right? So here at the end of the day, during the summers, we bring the bikes in, and then the mornings we bring them out. So I've been able to ride a whole bunch of different styles of bikes, and that's been an important learning aspect as well. So basically, riding academy gets you started, right? But then Wilkins is here to really help you move forward. So, basically, the educational model, right? We're riders to riders. It's not necessarily that we're here trying to sell this piece of metal or this piece of metal. It's what fits you best. And even before I worked here, and now that I do work here, it's like I see both sides of it, and it's just such an important aspect of the environment that riding really is, especially in New England, I think, right? And Wilkins, and it's a good fit. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That once Riding Academy graduation takes place, the learning doesn't stop there.
Never.
Wilkins stands behind Riding Academy, and we have students who come back for a refresher course.
Yep.
They come back for some refresher lessons if they have a specific skill set that they're struggling with. We are right here to make sure that they get familiar with that. So have you graduated to a larger motorcycle than a 500?
So, the funny answer to this is I don't currently have a motorcycle, right? So, talk about that really hideous thing right now, COVID, right? Really affected my life and financially. So right now I'm working towards trying to get a motorcycle, and I don't know, it might be in one of these shots here. That guy right there, I've hugged it probably every day I've worked for the last 2 weeks. I'd love to buy that one right there. But I do, again, riding around here, get a chance to try out a bunch of different bikes. So I've been on 883s, I've been on 1200s, I've been on Softails, I've been on touring bikes, been on the street glide, been on a road glide, and been able to really experience those different dynamics because each one is different, right? And found that, some of the things that I thought I would like, I actually didn't like as much as I would, and vice versa, right? And over time, your skills even develop, and that changes how you feel about each bike. So a lot of dynamics to it, but definitely looking forward to picking one of these things up soon.
When you're out there riding, Nate, what exactly is the feeling, the experience that makes you so attracted to this?
Everything disappears. So basically, the whole concept of it just being you in the road, right? There's no windshield. There's no there's no barriers, right? So it's you, the road. You're the one that's fully responsible for operating the machine, right? And so you get the wind in the face. You get the experience, the vibration, the whole 9 yards. But we all deal with so many things in our life, right? Like even Wilkins here, as great as it is, there's a lot going on. It's a stressful job at times, right? And stress can be really good things, right? Even great things in your life are stressful. So to be able to escape and be able to move away from that and just kind of let everything fade away, right? Harley has a great video that they did last year, 2 years ago, that epitomizes that. So even if Cam could link to that in this video, would just be awesome, because it totally within 20 to 30 seconds can make you go, that's what riding's about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Nate, we appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences again, once again, with the folks out there who are considering Riding Academy. Certainly it has worked for you. I see how it's inspired you and led you to be a part of our community here.
Yep.
And we thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.